Sam Hurd has been released both from jail and by the Chicago Bears. He is accused of trying to buy cocaine and marijuana for resale. Now, as Pamela Jones of our Chicago station WBBM reports, he could end up trading his football jersey for another uniform.
Court sketches show Sam Hurd wearing orange instead of the Bears' orange and blue. He headed to his Lake Forest, Illinois home Friday night, cut from the team, out on bond after an arrest on federal drug charges. His attorney spoke for his wife, Stacy, and the rest of his family.
Disappointment. Disappointment for Sam, disappointment for his family. Sam's a football player. He wants to play.
The 26-year-old receiver just signed to the Bears this year, but on Wednesday night, Hurd was arrested outside this Rosemont, Illinois restaurant. A criminal complaint alleges Hurd met with an undercover federal agent there and accepted a kilo of cocaine, which he said he'd pay for later. Prosecutors say Hurd was building a drug enterprise and that he stated he was interested in purchasing 5 to 10 kilos of cocaine and 1,000 pounds of marijuana every week for distribution in Chicago. Bears coach Lovie Smith says background checks on Hurd showed no drug activity.
I'm in shock over it. I never saw it coming.
It's a choice that he made, and you have to. There's consequences with the choices that you make.
For CBS News, I'm Pamela Jones in Chicago.
And joining us from Boston to discuss the Hurd case is Michael McCann, the legal analyst for Sports Illustrated. He's in Newton, Massachusetts, near Boston. Michael, good morning to you.
Good morning, Russ.
Let's talk about Sam Hurd. This is a 5-month investigation. Were the Chicago Bears aware back in July this was going on?
No, they weren't, Russ. If the Bears had known about this, there's no way they would have given him a 3-year contract, and a contract that has, as part of it, a $1.35 million signing bonus, which will be very difficult for the Bears to get back, even though Hurd has run into these legal problems.
Hurd has kind of bounced around the league. He's one of these players known for perhaps being on the cusp of doing something great, but it never quite happened for him. What is his reputation in Chicago?
Russ, it's interesting. Hurd actually has a good reputation. This is someone who wasn't drafted by an NFL team. This was someone who had to make it to the NFL through hard work and through diligence. He also married his college sweetheart. He's a father. He's not a player who people would suspect would run into legal problems, and certainly not someone who we would imagine would be a drug dealer of the kind that the police are now saying.
Chicago police allegedly have a list of the NFL players that Hurd allegedly supplied with drugs. Is the NFL conducting its own investigation?
Yeah, the league is conducting its own investigation, and the league is certainly troubled by the fact that it didn't know about this. If, in fact, it's true that a number of NFL players are part of a drug network, it would suggest that teams in the league aren't doing enough to figure out what's going on with players.
What are the implications, do you think, to the NFL if, in fact, this all proves to be true and there were a number of players who were purchasing drugs from Hurd?
Well, it's very concerning for the NFL because this is a league that, until recent years, had a real problem with cocaine in players. Back in the 80s, it was reported that perhaps as many as half of NFL players had tried cocaine. And the league doesn't want to go back to an era where players were associated with this very dangerous drug. Under Commissioner Roger Goodell's leadership, the image of players has improved. So for the league, they may have to take steps to change the way players are tested for drugs and also change the way players are investigated in their personal lives.
Let's talk about this. The NFL does, in fact, test for drugs. I mean, how did this slip through the cracks if, in fact, that's what happened?
Well, Russ, NFL players are tested for cocaine and other drugs of abuse during the preseason, and if they test positive, they can get tested again during the regular season. The problem, though, is that for most of the year, players aren't tested for cocaine. And not only that, a lot of critics will say that the players get too much notice of an upcoming test, so they can adjust for it. So the testing policies aren't that tough.
As you said, the possible implications down the road for the NFL would be great. At this point, where these are just allegations and the investigations are taking place, how do you think the NFL privately is reacting to this?
I'm sure the NFL is embarrassed. I'm sure they're calling the Bears, Hurd's former employer now that Hurd has been cut. I'm sure they're also calling the Cowboys, and they're trying to figure out how could this happen? How could no one have seen, if in fact it's true that not only one player but perhaps dozens of players were involved in this, how could this all go under the radar? And I think it's a soul-searching moment for the league, a league that has focused on a rigorous personal conduct policy, a league that is focused on improving the marketability of players so that fans like them, a league that's coming off a very contentious lockout over the summer. This is not a good time for the league to run into this problem.
Michael McCann of Sports Illustrated, we thank you so much for your insight. Take care.
Thank you.
It is about 25 minutes before the hour. Lonnie Quinn is here with our